Welcome to African Couch Potato, the mashup. This is episode 47. Do you know what Heart of the Hunter, Silverton Siege, and Kalushi all have in common besides being on Netflix? It's their director, Mandlankayise Walter Dube, and today we're going to have a masterclass in directing. How are you, Mandla?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm good. Do you prefer Mandla or you want your full name?
I think for my title and as far as for the film professionally, Mandlankayise is much better. And here I am. I'm doing what I'm not supposed to be doing, touching.
Just banging the mic.
You know how many times I get told that on the film set? Don't touch. Mandlankayise professionally out there. Mandla,
Yeah.
if you know me.
If I know, I hope now I know you. Let's get started. So I want to speak about Italian Job first, and then work our way up to the latest one, and then obviously your trip to Cannes.
Oh, jeez, okay.
You started on the Italian Job under the camera and electric department. What were you doing exactly?
I was a camera assistant under my mentor. His name was Wally Pfister, and he had finished shooting a film called Memento.
Yeah.
And he did a film called Insomnia. And then he got, he got into the big leagues. He got to do the Italian Job. And he said, hey, do you want to come and work with me on this? He had done his thesis film at AFI. And his thesis film dealt with it had a South African subject matter.
Yeah.
So that intrigued him that I was in a program there at AFI as well. And so I went to go and pick up camera cases, lenses, clean them up, and assist the camera department in that, which is something that I had started actually doing way back in the early 90s, mid 90s. When I was in Atlanta, I started shooting music videos in Atlanta. So I was very familiar with the camera department.
Yeah. That's what I wanted to ask. So were you bouncing between SA and Atlanta, or were you fully based in the US and then came this side?
I was fully based at the time in Atlanta. I had left South Africa when I was about 16 years old.
Yeah.
At the height of the emergency period in South Africa, 1985-86, and went on to finish high school in the US. And then my brother was already there.
Yeah.
And when it was time, he graduated and he said, let's go back home. I said, I'm not going back there. I would rather get some kind of skill set. And at the time, there was this guy named Spike Lee.
Yeah.
Who was a big name, and he went to Morehouse, but took film studies at Clark Atlanta University under Dr. Eichelberger. And I said, I'm going to go where that guy went. And I think they had finished doing school days not so long as well. Yeah. At the AU Center. And I said, I'm going to go there. So that's how I got into that world.
Now I want to move into Kalushi, which is the story of Solomon Mahlangu. You were abroad, now coming back to work on that. Did you write and direct it, or was it just a project that you were roped in to direct? And how would you have interpreted that subject matter?
Oh, wow. Well, it's a 30th anniversary of South Africa's democracy. Yeah?
Yes.
And Solomon Mahlangu being a young person is quite key in this democracy. And it was just his the commemoration of his execution on April 6th last month. Yeah. So I got into that project. I did cinematography, hence working with Wally Pfister, right? I love cinematography. That's my passion and love. That's where I started, and then came to South Africa, and I was lecturing at Wits University, and while lecturing at Wits, I was introduced to Solomon Mahlangu's family. Yeah, and being a person from Pretoria myself, I had an affinity with that story. I had heard about it and all that, but not really the details of what had happened and all his family, from a family standpoint. And then I was introduced to his family, and while lecturing at Wits University, I actually used to take my students with me to do part of the research. I would say, it's an excursion they would go out there, Fidel, Squadness, and Mandla and them. And I would really just take them with me and say, we'll go to like Marabastad and all of that. Because I felt like the best way to learn something is just physically do it with cameras out there.
Yes.
So anyway, I went to meet with the family, interacted with them. And then I said, yeah, there's something here. And I remembered when I was about 10 years old, there'd been a story called Silverton Siege that happened, which really traumatized me, at that age. Then I was also going to the Nelson Mandela Foundation a lot at the time. Then I conceptualized this trilogy of projects called the Legends of Freedom. And these Legends of Freedom have something in common where the city of Pretoria is a character. And then the first installation and all of that was Kalushi, the story of Solomon Mahlangu. So I didn't really write it as such at the time. It was more of a concept. And then I had learned that there was this guy named Tyler Perry who made stage plays, and then those stage plays, he adapted them into films. And I was like, okay, there's something there. So I went to the South African State Theatre, doing research with the Mahlangu family, and then they granted me the rights to do the story. At that time, it was the 30th commemoration of his execution in 2009. And then I sieved and went through all that material, interviewed some of his commanders like Spiwe Nyanda and some of the people that he had been with, Thomas Masuku and so forth. And then I went to the South African State Theatre. I said, listen, I've got this trilogy of projects. I would like to explore collaborating with you guys there. Artistic director at the time, still there, Aubrey Sekabi, he welcomed me. And then I went to the post office. We did a stamp about Solomon Mahlangu, just really curated this material. And went to the Nelson Mandela Foundation. We did an exhibition. And that exhibition was the Legends of Freedom, Solomon Mahlangu, Silverton Siege, and the Rivonia trial. And then came, after the stage play was successful, I was okay, that means there's an audience, there's an appetite for this material. And then thought, okay, then I'm not a person who's really from stage, I'm a filmmaker. Thanks a lot for that concept that Tyler Perry had of doing stage plays and adapting them into film. And then I just borrowed that concept and went on to say, okay, let's go and make a film now. But I went to like about 5 directors as a cinematographer to say, hey, I've got this project. Do you want to come and direct? And every single one of them were like, we wouldn't even know where to start with that. It's just too heavy a subject matter. And then the 5th guy, Teddy Matera, who I had actually been writing the project with, said the only reason that you can't find a director to do this with is because Solomon Mahlangu's spirit wants you to tell his story. You have to direct it. Yeah. And then I had learned from a co-fellow at AFI who had said to me that, in order to be able to deal with your fears, you have to confront them. So, you have to direct this. And I said, well, who am I going to get to be the cinematographer? Because I really wanted to shoot this. And I reached out to an old friend of mine in Los Angeles, Tommy Maddox Upshaw. And Tommy happened to be available, and he said, just get me the ticket. I'm flying out there. And Tommy flew out there, and we collaborated. Because I didn't want to be overlooking the cinematographer. Yes. Right? And knowing that he came from a program that, Bill Dale, our mentor, had put together at AFI, I knew that I could trust that wherever he puts the camera, the action will be okay. So I can, being my first time directing, I wanted to focus on working with the actors. Yes. So I brought in an actors coach and a directing coach, Adrian Wise, and my producing partner, Walter Ayers, was able to lay the ground and say, let's just support your vision. And that's how I got to become a director. It was from other directors saying they don't want to work with with the material, and I said, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah. And then now changing a stage play into a screenplay.
Yeah.
How was it like? Because obviously with stage, people respond immediately. So if something's good or bad. And the kind of performance is different. On stage, it tends to be bigger. On screen, it tends to be micro expressions. How challenging was that?
Well, the challenge, look, I've looked through the lens many times. From shooting music videos, from shooting a lot of short films, from shooting a lot of series work as a cinematographer, documentaries as a cinematographer. So I had learned to watch. You can look through one eye and then your other eye is open to see what's going to happen next. So I had watched performances through a lens. I had watched other directors, good and bad, how they had worked. And I learned from that, and I leaned on that first. You always have to latch on what you know how to do first. And then with what we do, it's mostly here, right? Where stage, it's out there.
Yes.
So it's mostly here, it's in the eyes, it's in a lot of what you don't see. Directing film is all subtext.
Yes.
That's where it's at. If you can get the subtext, what's not said is what is really we are saying.
Yes.
That's where for me.
And now when you change your cast members, when you go for the likes of Utabo, how was that? Did you feel that they could pull it off to your vision's highest potential?
Well, there's an audition process in what we do. So there was an audition process. I mean, Tabo must have had something like 6 callbacks, before we could be able to say, yes, that's the dude, Many people auditioned. A lot of people auditioned with my casting director, Bonnie Lee. And we auditioned a lot of people. There is one person, though, that I had, she was my former student. One of the students at Wits when I was lecturing. I had seen her on campus, and I thought, one day, you're going to be in a film I want to do. And lo and behold, when we were doing the casting process, I asked the casting director, get a hold of Pearl Tsotsi.
Yes.
That was her first time. She was like, what do you want? I was like, yeah, just get in there. We'll.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of rehearsals. I really want to give actors space to rehearse and to immerse themselves in their characters, to know these characters, so they embody these characters, and in front of the camera, it becomes a magical thing where they just become. It's spontaneity. It's not even a thing of we try that again. They just spontaneously become the between their chemistry. Obviously,
yeah,
they have to have chemistry. So that you establish in the rehearsal process. By the time you start shooting, the film has to be done. You're just fine tuning the story. So and we don't do that enough here to give actors the room to breathe and to just immerse themselves in these characters. So we developed a short language, which Adrian helped me with, and then the actors and I were able to do that.
And because it's told from a position where Solomon is in the dock and he's retelling what happened. So he's in court, he's telling the story of how everything happened, how his colleagues and comrades passed away. In terms of the location, and because it's a period piece, and nothing looks like that anymore, how much art direction went into it, or into making it look believable at least?
Well, we had an amazing production designer, Chantel Carter, and an amazing costume designer, Reeve Philippe, who's won multiple awards, both of them have. And it was, you have to lean on what people know, their strengths, and you focus on what you know how to do. So they pretty much did the research, and I, in my briefing to them, I said, I want the city of Tshwane, Pretoria, 1980, 79, 76, to be a character in the story. Now, one thing you'll find that's common in as far as the city itself is that the trial takes place at Church Square, at the Palace of Justice, right? In Kalushi. In Silverton Siege, they get chased and they end up where? In Church Square,
yes,
next to the Palace of Justice. And when the Rivonia trial gets done, it'll take place where? At Church Square, inside the Palace of Justice, because that's where the trial that landed Nelson Mandela and them to go to prison.
In prison.
The Rivonia trial. So I'm very intentional about stuff. I don't just wake up one morning, I'm very intentional. I study the stuff. It's a lot of hard work, and if you're not intentional about it, you're gonna miss the boat, So it's a lot of research. I've been doing my second master's at Wits University when I conceptualized the trilogy.
Yeah.
And how do we preserve our heritage in the convergence of technology? And lo and behold, now we are literally living in a convergence. I mean, we're doing a podcast.
Yeah.
I'm live on Instagram, and I'm getting calls in between there's somebody who's recording the podcast. So there's a convergence that's taking place. And it's a thing of how do we have conversations with each other so that we can be able to, decolonize the narrative of who we are in this convergence, right? So part of what one does is taking heritage narratives to feed them into building the tourism ecosystem of South Africa. So because the content of tourism is heritage.
Yes.
People don't come to South Africa to come and
sleep or sip martinis.
No, they come and experience the heritage of the country, its flora, its fauna, its environmental heritage, and all of that. So it's time we also start packaging and giving our heritage an identity, so that we could, we could exploit that for commercial reasons.
Then we fast track to Silverton Siege. Is there a trauma now because of what you experienced when you're 13, 14 years old in Pretoria?
Is there a trauma?
Yeah. So going back to relive those days.
Well, I mean, it's part of art is therapy. For me, I was yes, it's making, and I was doing these films as well for my students. Because in 2009, there was a lot, just like now, it's about to be elections here. There was just apathy among them, like, what? Nelson Mandela, Solomon Mahlangu, students are like, hey, what have they done for me? I was like, no, these people sacrificed to be where you are now.
Yeah. For
you to be sitting in this classroom and interacting with each other freely. There are a lot of people that, lost their lives. And then, it's like, let's actually dive into these narratives to tell them. So Silverton Siege for me was also for my therapy, what I saw, because the newspapers, how it was reported, with what happened, the police, the South African apartheid police, and the defense force had gone into the bank, and the way they shot the trio, the Silverton trio, it was just super inhumane. And because the guys that were in the bank were not even trying to kill anybody.
Yes.
They were actually, it was just by default that they're inside the bank, and their demands were free Nelson Mandela.
Yeah.
Right. They didn't want the money. They didn't want all of that. They wanted
attention.
Yeah, just wanted attention. But the way that they were, and these were, late teenagers, early 20s. But the front page of the Sunday Times of how they displayed that, it was traumatic for a 10-year-old to see that, and it was on purpose. Because there was this whole thing of Swart Gevaar.
Yes, Black Danger.
Black Danger that was being pushed. So it was like, the Black Danger is here, be careful, the Black Boogeyman is going to come and eat us alive, make sure that you guys are armed. So for me, it was like dealing with that trauma, as well as curating our heritage and history.
When you see people who have watched your films, do you ask them for feedback, or are you just happy knowing that you've put it out there for public consumption?
No, you can't call it back. Once it's out there, it's out there.
But do you ask for feedback? Like, once your wife has seen it or your kids have seen it, do you wait for them to tell you what they thought?
Oh, those at home, they give you immediate feedback. They're like, Dad, nah, come on. Like right now, my sons are like, okay, can you make a film that we can watch together with you? Because the films that you make, are above age, the younger ones, So I've been working on a project since 2015 called Yasuke.
Yeah.
It's about the first non-Japanese African samurai.
Okay.
So I've been developing that, and the script is watertight now, and that's something I can watch with them. We have a motion graphic for it, and then we just launched a graphic novel at Comic-Con a week ago, which was a great success, done by Loyiso Mkhize. So now I can do something that I can sit down and watch with them.
But now moving to Heart of the Hunter, which is an action sequence, is also rooted in a assassin who's been called out of retirement to help South Africa at a critical time. Is that a common narrative in all of your films, that there has to be a black identity working for the greater good of the country?
Like I said, I'm very intentional about, the black male has been emasculated, like big time. And I think it's just time that we affirm and we are able to show strong black male heroes for young ones and for ourselves. And, went to into a whole brawl with Netflix about a family that gets disrupted and torn apart.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's part of that. The whole thing of being a farmer. I'm also a farmer. I farm, outside of Pretoria.
What do you farm?
So dry white beans.
Okay.
Barley. Yeah.
For beer production.
So, yeah, Heineken. Yeah, is one of my clients.
Ah, dope. Do you drink Heineken?
Why? No, I don't. Yeah, once in a while.
Yeah.
When after when they call rap, I'll take a beer and say, ish. But I don't consume alcohol.
Yeah.
No, not a lot.
Back to that black identity. Your screensaver is Malcolm X.
How do you know that?
I know everything.
What the hell? How do you know that?
I just pay attention. It's like a gift. Why Malcolm X?
You see on that screensaver, he's got a Bolex camera.
Yeah.
He's shooting. So Malcolm was very key in as far as what is the mirror of who he is, in as far as his society that he lived in at the time. And I read his autobiography when I was young, and when I was at RapidLion University, we had to do a whole research paper on African identity and black men of vision.
Yeah.
Like Malcolm X, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, Stephen Biko. There's a book by Dr. Naim Akbar that I read, and he just kind of opened up my eyes to the likes of Malcolm. Yeah, that's it. You're very observant. I don't know how you saw that.
With your current project, The Great War, you're going back to the US for that?
No, I didn't. Believe it or not, all that was shot here in South Africa, in Cape Town, for History Channel. And the cast is all South African.
Yeah.
Very proud of that. With the exception of one character, Khalid, one actor, Khalid, is out of London. But it's all South African. Gabriel Mia, Langley Kirkwood, Groenewald, I forget his first name. He plays. They play the leads. So yeah.
In summarizing or in closing all of this, when I was speaking to your production manager, you're going to Cannes on Sunday.
I'm leaving for the Cannes Film Festival. Yes.
Yeah. Is that as a participant or just to observe?
No. You don't go to Cannes. It's just as a participant. It's a zoo.
Yeah.
It'll swallow you up. No, I'm going there with the project that I just mentioned, Yasuke, The Way of the Butterfly, to go and help package that. The Industrial Development Corporation, IDC, is our partner. And my manager, Stephen Adams, out of Alta Global Media, has lined up meetings to go and package the project.
Yeah.
No, it's for business.
And what's the importance of testing your work out at a film festival first before now going into production?
You see, things have kind of changed, with streamers and so forth, with festivals. So, and COVID, people don't go to cinemas as much as they used to. But I think it's coming back now, as you can see. So it's important that, we especially as filmmakers from the continent and into the African diaspora, are able to fight for that space of our identity being at the cinema level, at the streamer level. Because here's one thing that's great. The streamers, it's great. Your film can be there for however long.
Yeah.
But it can be there for 3-4 weeks and then gone. And it sits as an archive on a cloud somewhere.
Yes.
Whereas if you go to cinema, if you go to film festivals and then you eventually end up on a streamer, it has you reach a much wider audience, right? Because for us, the cinema and television, it's such an important platform to have conversation with each other about our identity.
Yes.
Right? This lost identity, this decolonizing this lens of who we are. Because for a long time, and still happening, the likes of Hollywood have curated who we are, and we've kind of bought into that image, and we haven't really gone out there to say, no, this is who we are. We don't even have standards around our images.
Yes.
Believe it or not, right? So, we've adopted some standards that have come out of, the Hollywood days, or I'll give you an example, like Kodak.
Yes.
Kodak created standards back in the day for white Caucasian skin tones, right? And then they created these color charts called Shirley cards because the model's name was Shirley. Right?
So Shirley cards.
Shirley card. They're called Shirley cards. So, and then obviously Fuji created its own standards for Asian skin tones. And, here with the fourth industrial revolution, with digital age and all of that, we have to be intentional and say we are creating standards about our skin tones. We have to be the ones that say, this is how we look. This is how we want to be looked at.
Yeah.
And we are not making any, we are not apologetic about it, And then some things will kind of change. Because it's Stephen Biko said, the greatest weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed, right? So if we can start unlocking that so that we can be able to live freely and have dialogue with others who see themselves freely. That's why folks can be able to come into South Africa and, and interact with us freely, or economically, or as a tourist, or living here and all of that.
Yeah.
Because there's a certain sense of dignity that comes with who they are, their identity. And we still have that work to do.
So with your films, what's the legacy or your contribution to the arts?
I have happiness.
Yeah.
Just being free, being happy, and also a legacy of self-worth. A legacy of that my children can be able to build off of on. Economically, because this is not just pop and flays. It's a business.
Yeah.
And ownership in the value chain of the industry, and the technology of the industry. It's very important that we are very assertive in that. And go to the grave happy, saying, yeah, I did that.
Is there anything else you want to
add? I love myself.
Thank you so much. That was Mandlankayise Walter Dube. We are African Couch Potato. I'm still your host, Gino. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible, Deezer, everywhere. Follow us on social media or email me directly, gino.arlechino@gmail.com. For now, as always, goodbye and keep binging.